Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back. P&Q&C&A&T. This is season 6, episode 3. The P&Q&C&A&T stands for podcasts and questions and comments and answers and talking. And the P at the beginning of this season is because this is now available in podcast format. So you can check it out in the description, where if you do in fact check us out on our platform of your choice, you will be able to find a bonus episode of more than an hour of content that you are only going to be able to get in podcast form. But that's enough of our plug for that platform. Yeah,
how exciting!
Yeah, it is cool. Well, that's enough of the P. It's time to get to the Q's and C's for our corresponding A's and T's. So the first question comes from Frolic Fox, so I guess this is more of a plea, perhaps. They say, can you please make a tutorial video on how to hit 200% on point blank in the case of Arkham Origins Deathstroke? I know he's extremely powerful, but after so many tries, I couldn't hit 200% correctly. I've been asking about this since a year. Hope you guys would post it sooner.
And I want to point out in the last video when we did the opening, I keep on getting Arkham Origins Deathstroke and Deadshot mixed up. And I think visually I won't when I look at them, but whenever I see the words, I can't keep them straight. So yeah, so every guy in the 800 nth metal pack is actually from multiplayer, because it's not Arkham Origins Deathstroke, it was Arkham Origins Deadshot.
All right. That makes more sense.
Yes. So we've actually done the swipe, the rapid swipe, and we've done the tap for how to get 200%, like our physical technique, and we should probably link that in the description to explain how we relatively consistently, I mean, that's part of the reason why I like Wonder Woman so much. Look, there's 196, almost 200%, but it doesn't actually take very much effort to do the tap. The problem with hitting the point blank, because that's the slider, right, where you have to stop it in the middle with 200%. And you get all the extra bonus, right? It's crit, it's unblockable, and it's a pretty big spot.
It's just inconsistent.
Yeah, and it's not even so much that I think if our device was better, we wouldn't have the trouble, because it lags, and it lags not consistently.
That's true. Yeah, there's input lag. There's just normal lag where it's slow. It's impossible to kind of predict exactly how it's going to be moving. It doesn't move in a consistent up and down line the way that
and
it should.
Doesn't respond to our touch the way it should, actually, really. Because when, I guess depending on the different temperature it might be, like when we've been playing for a while and it's hot, if you tap it, then before it responds, it'll slide a little bit further. And so there's not really any technique other than knowing your device. And I guess that's sort of the point. All right, so here's tap, 200%. That was relatively easy. Swipe, you notice that there's a lot more touches than there are increases in the number, so that's where the lag comes in. And I don't know why, but the tap seems to take less of the resources of the device, so I can get it every time. And when I first started playing the game, I hated every other mini game for the specials except for the sliding bar, because even though I couldn't regularly get 200%. It took the least amount of effort, right? And this was when did I tell you the story when we first started doing the challenge reset, and I had a free weekend, and I ended up giving myself like
carpal tunnel or something like that.
More like a repetitive strain injury. Yeah. Because of every special I was doing all the tapping and fighting, and I loved the sliding special because all it was one tap.
Yeah.
And now that I've played more and my arm has recovered, I actually prefer the tapping circle the most. Next is the thermometer style tapping, but I don't like as much because it doesn't stop, right? You have to just maintain it until the arbitrary point when it registers. And so the 200 target spot, the slider, and the swipe now are actually my least favorite.
Oh, see, the other one that I don't like is the one where you just have to touch the circles, because you can't get 200% on those, right?
They fixed that. They fixed a lot.
Did they?
I don't know if all of them or most of them, but they fixed them, so you can actually get 200% now. And actually, those are easiest, but they're so rare that it doesn't come into play. I mean, they're rare on the characters that I play and on the specials that I play.
That's why I didn't even realize they had fixed that.
There's some Catwoman, I think, second special, but for whenever I play Catwoman, it's typically Arkham Knight Catwoman, and I want to do her first special because I want to stack the bleeds.
Okay, well then I stand corrected.
Yeah, if you can do 3 special ones in a row, like you could with, say, Aquaman, the bleed is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there we go. Our next question comes from John.
Can I interrupt? Sorry. I guess we didn't really answer the question. It's that we're probably not going to be doing one of those for the slider because there's no real technique. That's sort of the answer.
Do it fast. Yeah.
Right.
There's
just know your
real
device.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Our next question comes from Jonathan Hung, and they say, "Hi guys, Happy New Year. Glad to hear that Junior, that's me, has been doing well at school so far. Thanks for the multiple shoutouts. I've done the nth metal glitch a few times during some time when I didn't have internet access. It's really tedious even with all 3 metal characters. Actual results, 7th pack, 2nd, 17th, 7th, 20 plus packs, I stopped and didn't get a metal character. It's probably faster to actually play the Phantom Zone when available and to grind multiplayer for top 1% in good seasons. Best wishes to you guys for the new year." And I want to say thanks, Jonathan. Great comment. I'm back at university again, so we're back doing the remote connection with all the like little bits of extra work involved in that. And I'm actually on a different computer because my current one is being repaired. So this has been more difficult for a couple of reasons. But
all right, so you say that, and it makes so for the viewers or the listeners, I keep a few notes about things I want to talk about. I mean, as you said that, it occurs to me, like what drives me nuts is, all right, so your computer, the issue is the SATA cable off the motherboard is damaged. And
for people who don't know, motherboard to hard drive cable.
Right, but here's the thing, desktop, it's all standardized. Laptop, it's not. They're all sort of proprietary. And the delay now, it has to do with getting the part, which to me is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, because the actual damage is really obvious, and there's no like significant piece of hardware. It's literally just a cable, but it's costing more money than it should for just a cable, right? For an internal component cable, and it's taking more time than it should for something like that too, just because it's so kind of niche and specific that they can't like mass market laptop SATA cables or even just like short SATA motherboard cables.
Right. And all right, so to get back to Jonathan Hung's point, thank you. Yeah, thanks for asking. And part of the point I think is that sometimes just because you can do a glitch doesn't mean you should, because I think his point is well taken. That it probably takes, now that nth metal is available in multiplayer, it's harder to justify resetting the data. On average, I'm guessing like 6 times, because I'm not. Maybe you know the math better than I do. Is that how the math works? Because if it's 1 out of every 11 packs, on average, will you on average need to open 6 packs to get one? Is that how it works?
If it's 1 out of every 11, no, I don't think that is right. Because 1 out of every 11 packs contains like any like a specific metal character, or 1 out of every 11 packs contains any
1
metal
out of
character?
11 takes 1, but let's assume like in Jonathan's case we've got all 3 metal characters, so every 11th pack you're getting a metal character that you can sell. But 1 out of 11,
so it wouldn't take an average of it wouldn't take an average of 6 packs to get one. Actually, it would take an average of 11 packs to get one if it's 1 out of 11, right?
No, but so let's say 1 out of 11, it's the first one, that's still 1. Like, let's say you get on the first try. Some you get on first try, some you get on the second pack, third pack, fourth pack, and it averages out. I guess it would be if for certain you get 1 out of 11, but on average, you're getting 1 out of every 11. I guess. I don't know how that works, because...
Yeah. No, because one of the things is that if you, for something like, I think, I forget what the exact percent chance is, but it would be something like probably only about like a 60% chance that you got a metal character in 11 packs.
You think it's that low?
Yeah, it's surprisingly low. It's the way the numbers work out. So it averages out to 1 over 11 over a long period of time. Because if there's a 1 in 11 chance, it's the same where if there's a 50%, right? If there's a 1 in 2 chance of when you're flipping a coin, right? Let's reduce the average down, right? If you're flipping a coin, and there's a 1 in 2 chance, it doesn't mean on average it's about a 2/3 chance of a heads. You can't, like, the original fraction is exactly what the chance is over a long probability.
Okay, so really it becomes the chance that 10 out of 11 that you don't get it, and it's 10 out of 11 on the first one that you don't get it, times 10 out of 11, and you keep on reducing it until your chance on each one is 1 minus that.
Exactly.
So but it's going to be more frequent than, on average, it's going to take less than 11 flips or 11 packs.
No, on average it'll take exactly 11, isn't it?
No, because, all right, so let's say you're flipping coin, it's 1 and 2. Yeah. On average, it's not going to take you 2 flips to get it. Sometimes it'll take you 2, sometimes
no, but on,
longer.
On average, it'll take you exactly 2 flips.
No, half the time it'll take you 1.
Yeah, half the time it'll take...
You see what I mean?
No, that's not true. Not half of the... If you're counting from the first flip, half the time it'll take you 1, but some of the time it'll take you 15. It's not that it takes you 1 or it takes you 2, and half the time it takes you 1. It's that sometimes it'll take you 1, sometimes it'll take you 3, sometimes it'll take you, 15. The minimum number is 1, right? But the average number of coin flips to get a given result is 2.
Half the time, 50% of the time, it will be 1. All right, so
50% of the time it's 1, and the other the other half of cases all add up to things that are over 1 that average out to, whatever the answer. Like the way that the math works out, it is 1 and 2. So
do you trust it enough?
1 in 11 chance.
Do you trust enough, or should we ask a math major to chime in the comments?
Oh yeah, that's true. If anybody else knows. Okay, so 10.
All right, so maybe we need to get back to the question, because I think we're getting more sidetracked than we normally do. So the problem with playing the Phantom Zone is it's enough of a grind, even if you get the right task, but with the wrong task, it's actually painful, and the Phantom Zone isn't always there. And that's sort of the only reasoning why it might still be worth it. But my problem is the metal characters...
I'm sorry, can I say something really quick? I just ran the math. If you open 11 packs, there should be a 64 or 65% chance a 64.9% chance that you get a metal character. Because 1 out of 11, so you do 10 out of 11 to the power of 11, and that gives you 1 minus answer. That gives you 35%. So there's a 35% chance that you don't get it. And that means that there is a 65% chance that you do get it. So that's how the math works out. So it's not even a 70% chance. It's lower than you thought, probably.
Okay. All right, so that makes sense. So yeah, it is a lot of work to do it. I mean, but here's the thing: metal characters are so hard to get, anyways. It means that they're of less value to me, and they're not worth grinding for, because, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things when the bar is set so high, that I don't even want to try.
Yeah, because there's so many copies that you need to actually get them elite up.
Yeah, so, and they don't look that good. I mean, when I say they don't look not
from
attractive, I mean
just
that. Yeah, as playing, like, the passive is okay. It's interesting, but it's not that great. I mean, yeah, all right, so getting back to the original question, like the meta part of the question, right? Mm-hmm. Where he referred to you as Junior, and we've been going by Abbott and Costello.
Yeah, where I'm Abbott.
Okay, so in retrospect... Yes, and I'm Costello. Mm-hmm. So in retrospect, it may seem funny now to have hidden the fact that we're a father and son team, because maintaining our privacy didn't really require that. You know what I mean? In real life. But maybe if I take a step back, because here's the thing. I mean, when we started this, you were a lot younger. Yeah. And I was concerned that there is a certain toxicity to social media. Mm-hmm. And, YouTube is sort of...
it's a weird sort of extra performative social media. It's like you stripped away the artifice of, like, pretending you know the other person.
Right. And we don't. I mean, a lot of times we don't, right? There's a lot of strangers coming in and taking a look and then wandering off, who never make a comment. We never know who they are. They don't subscribe. They don't do whatever, right? Yeah. But, I mean, the principle to me was that once you've done something, you can't take it back. Yeah. And I was unsure enough. I mean, I'm a bit of an old fart. This is really all new to me, right? I mean, it's new to you too, but it's more, you've grown up in it, right? Like that where this sort of world exists.
Yeah, it's new to you entirely, and it's, like, new to me, but familiar, like, tangentially.
Right. So it's that, that principle, right? Like, that love is fleeting, but herpes and internet are forever.
I don't know.
Is that not how it goes? Is that not it?
I've never heard that. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's it, because I don't know what you're trying to say. Like, I mean, I know what you're saying, but I don't know if there's a saying that you're bastardizing here, because I don't know.
I think I've heard the internet one, and I think I've heard the herpes one. It's like the one where you
separately
say, does the Pope poop in the woods? It's a bastardization of, does a bear poop in the woods, and is a Pope
Catholic? Yeah.
Right. Because
I've heard that one. That's gonna be hard when it doesn't sync up after the edit, because I said it at the same time on my side.
Yeah. So you know what it reminds me of? There's I don't know if you've read this. There was a little 8-page comic that was done as inside as an additional few pages in certain Vertigo books like years ago, but then they also DC also released it as a separate sort of 8-page handout, and there's a saying, life is a sexually transmitted disease that is invariably fatal.
I've definitely heard that before.
Yeah. All right, so when I was taking a look around when I was thinking about how this stays forever and how the connection to sexually transmitted diseases, it made me think, oh, Neil Gaiman and stuff. So this was, because I have this somewhere, I should dig it up so you can read it. It's attributed to Neil Gaiman, who, you know, we really like. He's a great writer.
Yeah.
But it's funny how when they quote stuff, it's not really Neil Gaiman saying that. It's one of his characters. Right? It was Death.
I mean, it is also Neil Gaiman saying that.
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, isn't it a bit of one of those cliches that the characters in a book are extensions of the writer or a representation of the writer? It gives him license to say what he wants.
That's true. It's his turn of phrase, but it's not necessarily his perspective.
Right. And it might be because, you know, Sandman was pretty cool and the whole group of the Endless were rather sympathetic characters.
Yeah.
So it's possible, but all right, so it was a quote from Death. It was a freebie mini comic that was drawn by Dave McKeon, who I also love, who did that photo mosaic thing that we mentioned before and did all the covers for Sandman. And it was about HIV and prevention. So there was even I remember there's a part where Death was explaining how you put a condom, but demonstrating it on a banana.
Oh my God, that's a weird comic.
It was, and it was pretty spectacular actually. Like that they thought to do it. It was just so out there. And okay, so and then it. But did you? How prevalent is this now? Because you know a little bit about, or you're more aware of stuff like this. Are there still conspiracy theorists that think HIV is not the cause of AIDS?
I will not say that there aren't conspiracy theorists that think that, because in the world that we live in, I wish it wasn't, but it seems almost unfathomable to me that one person out there doesn't think pretty much any insane conspiracy theory. But I can say that I haven't heard of anybody having that specific conspiracy, if that is helpful.
Yeah. Okay. That's and I should point out too, right? I don't know how we're gonna maybe go a little bit longer because of. It's funny how much people complain about multiplayer crashing, but it doesn't usually for us when we're filming this. But this time it did.
And so I mean, I guess to
sorry, go ahead.
Sum up what you were saying, basically, whether or not you were sure that it was an okay piece of information to share, which, you know, it is, you were sure that you couldn't unsay it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't take it back.
And so
no backsies.
So a little bit of paranoia, I think, it's not always necessary, but it sometimes is very useful, and I think it's valuable to have a little bit. If you can't be certain of what it is you can and can't say and do on the internet, it is good to be cautious. And I don't think anybody can be fully certain.
Right, and I think one thing that people keep on asking, I think that one bright line that we will not cross, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to show my face, my real life face in this. Ooh, this is going to be a tough fight. This is the Red Sun Green Lantern team. Oh, an Astro Harness. All right, so this is going to be a bit of a pain.
Who knows? Maybe one day. I have already shown my face online, just not associated with this channel.
Yeah, and I guess there's still, I mean, there's lots of, I think, writers and stuff who make their living writing and whose presence on social media really matters.
Yeah.
You know, lots of writers that I follow on Twitter, that I read their blogs, I don't think we're getting there. I mean, the biggest problem is, I think, is that if my real life crosses over into this, it might actually give me issues. I might actually have real problems.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be mysterious about it, but I think you understand why, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, there's a couple funny examples where the internet lives forever. Have you been following U.S. politics at all?
A little bit.
Okay, so I can never keep the House and the Senate and whatever separate, but there's I think a senator from New York, or is it a House representative? I don't know. Alexandria Ocasio. I don't know how to pronounce her name because I only ever read it. Cortez.
That's the profanity one, right? Where
no, she's the one. She supported the profanity one.
Oh, okay.
But this is the one where somebody released or dug up some video of her dancing when she was in college, or Boston University, and it was some sort of trying to recreate Listomania. And
what
people
is
were putting
Listomania?
I don't know. It's some sort of thing. It was some musical thing that people were just doing videos trying to recreate scenes from the. It was a mashup of Breakfast Club and some song.
Okay.
And so people posting it were putting it up thinking this would somehow embarrass her. And potentially it might have. I mean, it turns out that it actually makes her kind of seem approachable and cool and fun.
Mm-hmm.
But that, you know, if it's up on the internet, people are going to dig it up and they're going to find it.
Mm.
And it's always, is this in your real life context? Are you going to be happy if people find this about you and connect it to you? So that wasn't nearly as tough as I thought it would be. That was less than a minute for that Red Sun Green Lantern team. That's a little all right. And so then you've got other examples where, I mean, it seems almost like too easy, like the fruit is hanging a little bit too low. But Trump, when he says something or tweets something, and then there is almost always something, there's always a tweet for it that contradicts him.
Yeah.
Himself. Like he's actually saying the opposite of what he's saying now.
You can talk about the controversy too with like James Gunn, which I don't even want to comment on because I don't think I know enough about to have a fully formed opinion on.
Okay, so James Gunn, Guardians of the Galaxy, Part 1 and Part 2.
Yeah.
And he comes from, I think, a background where the kind of entertainment, the kind of humor that he was trying to get at was a little bit more in-your-face and confrontational and intentionally offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And he's changed. He doesn't do that anymore. He's acknowledged it. But then in retrospect, or not in retrospect, really, sorry, that when this was brought to the attention, because he's considered, a little bit of a liberal, right?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
So then there's, a left wing, whatever that means, in the States. He's considered left wing, although, left wing in the States is still kind of right wing, conservative to Canadians, right? But so somebody who did not like his political views brought to everybody's attention all the stuff that he used to say, and like really just poor taste jokes, right? I think about pedophilia, whatever. Mm-hmm. And stuff that was available on the internet if you'd even wanted to make the effort to look. But it was after that Disney fired him from the Guardians of the Galaxy property, or their whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's a word for it, and I'm not sure what it is. And so it's almost like, it's not exactly the same thing, but it's almost like somehow you're never going to be forgiven. And that's not entirely true, right? Because if you try to make amends, and it feels like James Gunn did, like he's grown as a person, he's acknowledged his mistakes, then I think that's, you apologize for it properly, right? Like,
yeah, because I think it's a delicate line between holding people accountable and like crucifying them. And I think where people have like put that line is what actually creates a lot of the kind of arguments about accountability right now, right? Where some people are really willing to forgive and some people are really not willing to ever forgive. And it's hard because there's a line in between, but it feels a little bit kind of self-important to be like, I know exactly where the line is and everybody else is wrong who puts it in a slightly different spot.
I don't know that there's... Yeah, I guess so. But I think there's certain things I think that should be pretty straightforward. I mean, if you don't acknowledge you made a mistake, you can't. Like, there's certain necessary elements, right?
No, I agree.
So you got to acknowledge your mistake. You've got to apologize properly. And then you make an attempt to change, and that's tied into making amends, right? So you try to... I mean, it's almost like AA, where you acknowledge your mistakes, you try to make amends, but if you don't do any of that, even if you just make a big show of apologizing, that's not enough, right? And people need to take a little bit of time to not be like tired of your crap. Like, I mean, Louis C.K. is a good example, because I mean, regardless of whether you think his new material is funny or not, and it seems like it's pretty like kind of lame actually. And I liked Louis C.K. before. Like, I thought he was pretty funny in his show too, right? But it seems like his newer stuff, it's relatively lame. He hasn't really apologized properly. And it's like he doesn't really recognize what his mistake was. And it's not even like he just, like how some people are characterizing it, he did something bad. It's he admitted to sexually harassing people where he worked.
Yeah.
At comedy clubs. Which is different because, I mean, a lot of times that's sort of the strategy, right? To deny.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So when you were younger, it's not like you could have the same awareness and be able to make the same informed consent about being in these videos, right? And appearing or not appearing.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about it now that you've got a little bit of perspective looking back on it as...
Like having been in the video?
Yeah, being an adult now and looking back at the approach that we took in our videos.
I think it was a valuable experience. I think I was at an age where I knew people who were making YouTube channels and not, and doing basically the same thing as we were doing, and they were just kind of even more on their own, and so had less sort of guidance, as it were, for how to go about doing it, unless I think a lot of the people making videos didn't have the same sort of actual driving force to create them. And I think in a lot of ways the fact that we were doing it together, and it was easy because we were a lot of the time in the same place at the same time, and we could just say, hey, let's film a video now, was really what allowed it to be successful in a lot of ways. And I think it was and continues to be a really cool experience that I'm really glad I got to take part in.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm glad for that.
Yeah.
And not to be like too self-congratulatory, but I mean, God, that was like a bit of a stroke of luck, right? Because when you see all the people...
I would never watch our old videos, though. And I don't recommend that anybody else does either.
But... Oh, wow. All right, so he just tagged in and he knocked us out. He must have something. I can't figure out what it is. Maybe it's a stun effect.
Yeah.
No, but it's... Because... Okay, so... How lucky were we to get in the space of Injustice videos where there was both enough of an audience and enough of a demand, and we were early enough that we could be in some ways identified with a game and have enough, like that little bit of like a critical amount of information so we could be useful to people watching.
Yeah. No, it's incredibly lucky. And the one thing I'm worried is that this incredulity is going to be registered as very self-congratulatory.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I want to say it's not, but I think it makes me more grateful that a lot of success has nothing to do with what we're doing, because there's a lot of people who could be doing exactly the same thing, but it has everything to do with timing. Oh, did you ever read Malcolm Gladwell? Any of Malcolm Gladwell?
Outliers? I think I've read some of his stuff, yeah. But not a lot.
It turns out he's a bit of a dick, too, for a lot of other reasons.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
No.
anyways. And maybe we can get into that at a different time, but one of the things that he wrote that was pretty cool, and I can't remember which book it was, where he talks about the expertise, right, and how it takes 10,000 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I know about that.
But there's an extension of that where, sure, it takes 10,000 hours, but a lot of it is the luck, the opportunity, and then having had the 10,000 hours already before you actually get your opportunity.
Okay.
So, I mean, there were other guys who... All right, so I can't remember. One of the examples was Bill Gates, where there's a chance to create something like Microsoft, but the biggest thing was that he had already put in his time on computers before that, so that when the opportunity rose, he was prepared to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So there's probably like
that
thousands of people, you know what I mean, that have the opportunity, or sorry, have the chance to be prepared. A handful of people who have the opportunity, and then there's that you draw it as a Venn diagram. There's a small intersection where the right person
has both the skills required at the point that they get the opportunity.
Right. And so I think a lot of the really successful entrepreneurs don't necessarily acknowledge that, because it feels like when you say that it minimizes and dismisses the effort that they put in to get their expertise.
Yeah. And lucky for us, the thing that we were doing didn't require a lot of expertise. It just required the opportunity. Yeah, exactly. I was actually reading something really interesting about this in my second year psych textbook, or not second year, second semester, where they're talking about there's the big 5 personality traits that people are rated on, and I don't remember all of them because I just read it and it's not being tested for a while, so they're not committed to memory yet. But one of them I think is like there's like openness, neuroticism, and stuff like that. And one of the things that they notice is that there's a cultural difference where people in different cultures rated differently on average, and it turned out that there's a decent chance that a chunk of that has to do with the way that people are raised to talk about themselves as individuals or as a collective. So they used the example of during the Olympics, somebody who won gold for America was like, I think I won just because I stayed focused and it was my time and I knew that I could beat them, and I put my all into it, and then I did. And the person who won for Japan said, like, I had the one of the best coaches in the world and a great team, and all these people supported me, and really it wasn't just me who won this, but it was me and everybody who got me to this point. And the kind of general trend in Asian society to value collectivism more, whereas in North America we tend to be a lot more individual.
Exceptionalism.
So I think yeah,
like as a country, but also as individuals.
Yeah, so I think part of that too is that probably a lot of the entrepreneurs we hear from are, English-speaking North Americans, just cause, and a lot of English-speaking white North Americans also coincidentally are the people who are getting a lot of the opportunities to be successful entrepreneurs. Sure. So when you talk about those people on average saying, hey, I did a really good job and that's why I got it, and not there was a lot of factors leading up to this. Right. It's a little bit of that kind of the individualistic nature of North American society.
And I think this is one of those cases where, they're both kind of true, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't have the individual making the effort. Oh, but it's funny in sports. All right, so let me finish making this point. So it's true. There is a lot of support. Very few people do it in isolation, that they don't have a supporting team, especially now where there's the nutritionist, a kinesiologist, a massage therapist, a trainer, all that stuff, right? But it also takes a special individual to take advantage of that opportunity, right? Somebody who's got the ability. I can't imagine that, let me think. I'm trying to think of an athlete. Like, just because you have the training and the expertise, that somehow you could become Usain Bolt, right? That you could run as fast as he does.
Oh, God,
it's a special intersection, right? Between ability and opportunity. But
where it's not just one and it's not just the other. That's right.
Right. But it feels, I don't know, it feels a little bit ungrateful if you take it to either extreme, right? Or to the one extreme where it's individual, because look, this team is totally our team at a higher level with exactly the same gear loadout. This is going to be fun, and this is going to illustrate the point, the fight that you don't get to see if you're listening to it as a podcast, but if you're watching it as a YouTube video, that why having a person playing the same team at lower stats at a slight disadvantage across the board is much, much better. Just because you've got a person controlling. So he's got high enough health that our first special did not do enough to knock him out. And we're going to be in trouble if Wonder Woman tags in too soon.
This is unfortunate for our podcast listening audience. I want to apologize.
Yeah. Oh, there she is. And so she generated enough distance so that she did a special 1 instead of a special 2, so that we survived Wonder Woman. Our Wonder Woman's knocking her out. And Viola. Okay, so, sorry, what point were we making?
I've lost it.
I've lost the train of thought. Individualism versus collectivism.
Yeah.
And maybe it plays into, it feels like it's very much adjacent to the idea of privilege versus not privilege, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it is called, I don't know. But sports teams, for example, I see there's something different too. Have you noticed when people follow sports teams? Because I do this too. If the team wins, we won. But if the team loses, they lost. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And it's wanting to feel like a part of something bigger when it's good, and not wanting to be part of it when it fails. That was a cool fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get. Yeah, and you're right. Where it's like not wanting to. Well, I think if you're in the text that I was reading, they were talking about how if you're a collectivist, you understand that there are certain things that aren't necessarily you. So it's not that you didn't have a part in your losses, but you also aren't the whole of your losses. So it's easier to attribute both. If you're attributing success and failure both to the group and you as a part of the group, but not just you, it's a lot easier to take those both kind of in stride without, being too either egotistical or too devastated. But if you're looking at it from like a really kind of individual perspective, your successes and failures say something about you. So it's a lot harder to take failure. So it makes it easier to it makes you want to blame it on external factors, and your successes are how you lift yourself up. Right. So you want to take full credit for them, right? So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's more important that you actually do take full credit for your successes, because that's how you
protect your ego.
That's one of the ways that you kind of determine your own value.
Ooh, I love when they dodge special too, because it gives us a chance to generate more power. All right, so this is related too. I mean, have I told you a story how I've met George R.R. Martin? I did, right?
Yes, you have, and I think you told the story on the podcast.
Okay,
too.
so then I won't get into it again.
About meeting him, and there was barely any people, so you lined up twice, got all your books signed. I think that might have been in the bonus episode, actually.
I mean, that was the one thing about George R.R. Martin that's interesting to me, because I read his blog every once in a while, and I would love to ask, when I meet him, if I were to meet him again and actually had the chance to talk to him, which seems like it's not possible because of just the way his public events are run now. But if I thought of this when I met him way back when, and it's related to the point we're talking about sports team and how people identify with it, he loves football. And he loves, I believe he loves the New York team. So he loves the Giants, and there's another New York team. And this is awful because I don't follow football. I follow basketball and baseball. I don't follow football. And I'm still curious, though, because the idea that he loves these teams, despite the fact that the people on the team when he first followed them are almost certainly all gone. The owners may be the same, maybe not, but the people that are involved in actually competing and winning or losing the games, all different. So what is it about the teams and the way they're marketed or sold, or is it just the colors, or is it the mascot? Like, there's something about the team that engenders a lot of loyalty, right?
And I think people can maybe answer this in the comments just from their own personal perspective. I think this is a question that almost anybody can answer who likes sports.
Yeah. Well, and
at least for them personally.
And if anybody's at a signing that George R. R. Martin does, please ask him this question and let us know what he says. And if you do ask him, let him know that we were the ones that were wanted to know. Not that he'll know us, but I'm just honestly, like, it's just I'm really, really curious now. Like, everybody can ask him about Game of Thrones and stuff. I mean, there's going to be a ton of questions, but a lot of it ends up being rehashed, right? And there's people on the forums that speculate about the plot twists and what's going to happen eventually that are way more deeply into it than we are, and can probably speak more intelligently about all the clues that have been left behind. But I really want to know how he feels about the sports team and what he thinks it is, because I wonder if this is the sort of same kind of tribalism that we're watching, like, from outside in Canada, looking in on the States, for example, where it's really sort of tearing them apart, and that, I mean, there's the hints of it. I love the word adjacent, right? Because it applies to so many things. Like, it's adjacent to kind of racism and sexism and all that kind of stuff, where is it that you feel like that you need to stick up for your own a little bit?
Yeah, and I think to some extent that's hardwired into us, the sort of like us and them mentality. And I think it's in kind of the modern world, I think it is largely, if not entirely, unnecessary and often damaging. I'm sure you would be able to find compelling examples where it's actually valuable, but I think there's a lot of times where that, like... Well,
it protects you from strangers,
forming a group is really that's true.
Like, it protects you from the potential danger of strangers, and I guess when the number of strangers is really, really tiny, then it hurts you, and when the number of strangers is not insignificant, then you're saving yourself a bit of grief.
Yeah. So
like, look at these teams. We start hitting them right away. Maybe they would be friendly to us if we didn't just start attacking them. Nah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna come with you on that one. We have another question here, but before we do, I just want to address something, because I've realized just now while we were kind of talking that I forgot to respond to this comment. Somebody mentioned that they also really like the Mountain Goats, and they asked if I listened to AJJ or I think it's Neutral Milk Hotel, and I've listened to a song by AJJ and really enjoyed it, and I'm aware of Neutral Milk Hotel as recommendations, but I have not as of yet. So to whoever that is, I don't remember your name right now, and I'm sorry for that, and I'm also sorry for not responding in a timely fashion.
Also, let's pull it and we'll put it in the description then. I'll dig up that comment and maybe put it in the description.
Yeah, but I will give them a listen on your behalf.
All right.
So there we go.
And since we're just talking sort of meta stuff that's not anything prepared, we're going to have an interesting little thing. If you stick around to the end of the video, we're going to have a little interesting thing as a teaser for something that we plan on doing. I guess it'll end up being about a month from now. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it's just something a little bit different.
Or you can skip to the end of the video if you're listening to this on a podcast. This is not a great episode for the audio-only listeners.
Yeah, that's true. Apologies.
Our next question comes from Zemino Vlogs, and they say, can you please just tell us about the glitches at the start? I guess this isn't a question. This is, again, more of like a plea, and this is for our weekly recap videos. And our answer to this person, who is most certainly not listed into a video that does not contain specifically relevant information if they are already worried about us not getting this stuff quick enough. No, we're not going to. And we can explain ourselves in more detail, but it doesn't matter because the person who's asking the question isn't listening.
That's so true. I mean, that's a funny way to look at it, but it's absolutely
we
true.
Saved your question for this late in, so there was a 0% chance that we had to address it in good faith, and we still can.
Yeah, I guess because to me, I must have said this a number of times before. The information is there, independent of our videos, and we actually work to maintain them.
Right before we do it every time, we literally say, hey, check the playlist. And if you check the playlist and read all the titles, then you don't need to watch our videos at that point. So it actually seems like one of the things that people care about more. But if you're actually listening, it's one of the easiest things to get without actually watching the video.
Without having to listen to the melodious sound of our voices.
It's like actually super, super easy information to get. And if you want to, you can just click around the video. I mean, like, skip forward. I don't know exactly what the time is. I guess you could figure out what the average time we start talking about it is. And then just, go in 5 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever number of minutes it is. And you'll get it done. And we are saying this to the void. There is nobody currently listening who this information is relevant to.
All right, so and maybe let me get meta a little bit. So I'm looking at the name. It's Zemino Vlogs, and you've told me this. VLOG is pronounced vlog.
Yeah, because you pronounce it like an extremely old man. Because you would say vlog, like video log.
Okay, so I completely understand. The root of the word blog comes from web log.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that but it's not W log, right?
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things. I mean, I say it instinctively, but I'm trying to justify it after the fact. It's not it's not an O log. Yeah, it's not. Well, I mean, that's true with most things, right? Like most of the things, I think we think fast and we come to a conclusion,
and then we try to when the dust settles, we figure out what happened.
All right, so because once you've already made the quick thinking where you use your intuition and this is how you judge it, you have. You're anchored already in that idea, so when you want to talk about and explain it, you start with that, and it's not an easy thing to let go of. And the more I think about it, though, I mean, it would actually make sense to call them O logs, right? Because a video log is the equivalent of web log, and you go blog. Video log would be O log.
Yeah, and I think what you did here was the classic internet mistake of making things harder to pronounce when we always try to make them easier to pronounce. When people say the Facebook, or when they say internets, where they really have to hit
interwebs,
where they have to hit the
two intertubes.
When people say on the internets and they make it plural and it's just harder to pronounce for no reason. When you say www.something.com, which I actually think you did that for Patreon, so
I did.
So
I'm guilty as charged.
This is not a one-time mistake, and I maintain, I said this to you in private, and now I'll say it in posterity for the video. My only mistake was my clemency in allowing you to pronounce it wrong for so long unchecked. I shouldn't have done it.
Right, because you thought you were doing me a favor, and you were actually doing
because
the
I thought I
opposite.
was just letting it go, because I was like, it can't come up often enough. And then I started listening to the podcast. Oh God, it's the John and Hank Green podcast. What's it called? Dear Hank and John. So I started listening to Dear Hank and John, and so I was hearing much more often references to the Vlog brothers, and it reached a breaking point, and I realized that the word was coming up enough that somebody needed to set you straight, and that somebody had to be me.
Because it could be nobody else.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any other native guides to lead me out of the
Yeah,
wilderness.
because I think the main person that it would be bad for is me, because the amount that you say vlog outside of hearing me casually listening to Dear Hank and John is probably almost never. So
It's zero. It literally is zero.
so really, you would just get some, at worst you would say it in a context where everybody was like, why are you saying it like that? Probably just quietly to themselves and be like, wow, that person is pronouncing that word wrong. But really, I was the only one suffering, and I was allowing you to remain in ignorance, and that was my error, and I take full responsibility now. I just wish it didn't have to come to this. It really reached a breaking point.
And that takes us to the end of the video. It really does.
There we go.
So why don't we
Well, first off, we can tell people how they can support us. If you want to support us, you can go to https://www.patreon.com/BDCKR.
That's Patreon.
And that'll bring you to our Patreon. Or you can go to patreon.com/BDCKR if you are a youth. If you're
a Ute. And we want to thank our patrons who are already supporting us, because without their support, I think we would have been much more reluctant to cannibalize our own views by setting this up as a podcast where people don't actually have to come to YouTube and where we get zero income. But that's okay.
That's true. And it would also have just made a bunch of little decisions. We would have been just a little more doubtful of how valuable other people found our content and how worth it was to people other than us for us to keep making stuff. So that's really great. And that's so we need to give a huge thank you to
Console Peasant, Eddy G, and Edwin Felix, who are supporting us at the highest last word tier. iProphet, also known as iProphet 3 on the YouTubes, who is supporting us at the Your Message Here tier. And Shawn, Farrell, and Daniel Simonson, who are supporting us on the credited level.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We're not going to be able to sync this up. We gotta take it again. You can do the outro. We'll one more time from the top.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Komoda.